Right now, there is a patient lying in a hospital bed, receiving a treatment that is nearly 2 decades out of date.
Yeah, it's called the knowledge to practice gap. And it essentially means it takes, on average, 17 years for new research evidence to actually integrate into routine clinical care.
Okay, we really need to unpack this. 17 years. That is a whole generation of patients getting outdated treatments, while the better research just, sits in a binder somewhere. It is basically like trying to run modern hospital software on a flip phone.
That flip phone analogy is, well, it's the perfect way to explain why evidence-based practice, or EBP, is so critical for you as a nursing student. Like, the best clinical project in the world does absolutely nothing if it stays locked in academia.
Right, exactly.
You need a way to accelerate that timeline, turning that raw evidence into immediate clinical action at the bedside. And that is the mission of today's deep dive. We are looking at how to effectively disseminate your findings so they actually change patient care.
So, how do you actually shrink a 17-year gap down to months or weeks? Because it takes more than just publishing a paper and hoping someone reads it.
Exactly. You have to build a dissemination engine. And doing that requires you to look at your communication through 5 specific lenses. You can't just throw data at people. You have to start by diagnosing your audience.
Like who is actually in the room.
Right. Then figure out the action. Like, what specific behavioral change do you want them to make? Once you know that, you distill the entire core message down to just 1 or 2 sentences.
Just 1 or 2 sentences. That seems really tough.
It is, but it's necessary. And you support it with a maximum of 3 strong pieces of evidence. Because 3 strong points are way better than 12 mediocre ones. And finally, you have to anticipate objections.
Wait, let me just challenge that for a second. If the clinical data is solid, shouldn't the science just speak for itself? Like, why do nurses need to act like corporate marketers pitching to different demographics?
Because implementing EBP is fundamentally a team sport, and science alone fails in a vacuum. You are dealing with different priorities.
Oh, I see. Like a bedside nurse cares about something completely different than the hospital executive.
Exactly. A bedside nurse needs to know how this impacts their daily patient care. A unit leader is looking at resource implications and training logistics. And the C-suite, well, they need to see a cost-benefit metrics.
Right.
If you bring bedside data to the C-suite without translating its financial impact, your pitch just dies right there on the table.
Okay, that makes total sense. So you really have to tailor the evidence to the audience. And I suppose that's where structured tools like SBR come in. Situation, background assessment, recommendation.
Spot on. It's not just a handoff tool for shift changes, it's a translational bridge. It forces you to organize complex research into a standardized format that every healthcare professional immediately understands. It strips away all that academic jargon.
So once you figure out the message and who you are talking to, you have to choose how to deliver it. You have written formats, like a quick executive summary, or verbal pitches where you can read the room.
Yeah, but where things get really interesting is the visual format, specifically the conference poster. Posters are fascinating because they function as clinical billboards.
Right, because you have a massive amount of complex information, but you only have, a 3 to 5 minute window for a viewer to read it.
Exactly. It has to be entirely self-explanatory.
Which means it cannot just be a textbook manuscript printed on a giant sheet of paper. You really have to leverage white space.
Yes, you have to let the data breathe. And that brings us to the reading radius.
The reading radius, what is that?
It's a mechanical rule for visual hierarchy. Think about a busy conference hall. Your title and authors need to be highly legible from 4 feet away just to draw attendees in.
Oh, wow, okay.
Then your section headers need to be clear from 3 feet so they can navigate the flow. Finally, the actual details and data should be readable from 2 feet.
So if someone has to press their nose to the paper to read your font, the design has completely failed.
Totally. So let's say you design this brilliant poster, you pitch the unit leaders, they loved it, and the practice gets approved. Getting it implemented is only half the battle. How do you stop this shiny new protocol from becoming, that thing we tried last year?
Right, sustaining the change. I imagine you have to embed the new process deep into the culture, like baking it into the onboarding materials for new hires.
Yep. And you celebrate and share early wins to build momentum. But most importantly, you iterate based on frontline feedback.
Let me pause on that feedback loop. Let's say the new practice isn't hitting the expected metrics right out of the gate. Is it actually a good idea to highlight those failures or hiccups to hospital leadership?
Actually, yes. Troubleshooting openly when outcomes aren't what you expected builds profound credibility. It proves to leadership that you are monitoring the practice objectively and making rational adjustments, rather than just blindly cheerleading for your own project.
So what does this all mean for your nursing career? It means communication isn't just talking. It is the actual mechanism that turns raw evidence into immediate clinical action. Go make your evidence, sir.
Exactly. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, if the healthcare system inherently lags by 17 years, how might your daily patient interactions change if you view yourself not just as a bedside caregiver, but as the primary accelerator responsible for dragging the future of medicine into the present?
That is a really powerful way to look at it. You aren't just following protocols, you are the one upgrading the system. So the next time you uncover a piece of groundbreaking clinical research, don't let it sit there for 17 years. Update the flip phone.